Welcome back. Glad to say we have Tunde Kolawole, analyst, usually on Wednesdays, joining us right here on Breakfast as we analyze the top stories from the national dailies. Mr. Kolawole, it's great to have you join us.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Let's dive into these headlines. We start with the Nation newspaper on the front page, a big one there. How APC governors edged us out by aggrieved senators. How APC governors edged us out by aggrieved senators. Of course, we know that about 22 of them have been making moves or allegedly making moves to leave the party, and President Buhari did meet with them. The writer to that story says Buhari dangles carrot at meeting with 15 senators. Kalu defection now ruled out. Kalu defection now ruled out. You have more from the Nation. Senate to probe allegations against Ex-CJN. So the matter is not dying down despite his GCON title. It seems that did not do the trick. Next one. Why Kanu will remain in custody till November 14 by judge. Two insurance firms lose operating licenses. Details on page 7 of the Nation. Tinubu hails acting CJN Ariwola's appointment. Interesting one there. Marginal oil fields bid nets 200 billion naira, $7 million. Marginal oil fields bid nets 200 billion naira and $7 million. 47 Audis get licenses. There's a picture of Bello Matawale, governor of Zamfara State, and this headline accompanying that picture. Banditry, Matawale insists residents must carry guns in self-defense. Banditry, Matawale insists residents must carry guns in self-defense. Of course, well documented what the police and the Nigerian army have said, particularly the chief of defense staff, in response to his directive to residents of that state. But a caption or a quote highlighted by the Nation newspaper on that story, it says, "We will do everything possible to uphold this," in parenthesis, security, responsibility within the ambit of the law. They're quoting him as saying, "We will do everything possible to uphold this," in parenthesis, security, a responsibility within the ambit of the law. An interesting one there. 15-year jail term awaits landlord renting apartment to Yahoo boys. So this is yesterday was quite an interesting one put out by INEC on Twitter. Very interesting way they put it as well, eliciting lots of reactions. Oyo Deputy Governor sues Assembly, alleges faulty impeachment process. We may call him the I don't know what we should call him, a stranded Deputy Governor. He's been facing quite a deal in recent weeks. Let's go on to the Daily Independent. Also has interesting stories, opting to go for not the usual political big story, but this time something to do with a previous government report. This is the 2014 National Conference report. Not a few people may have forgotten about that report, but it's still an issue. And former President Jonathan is in the news. This is the headline from the Daily Independent. It is time to implement 2014 Confab report, Jonathan. It's time to implement 2014 Confab report, Jonathan. I know Tunde Kolawole will have a lot to say about that. More from the Daily Independent. IPOB. Again, Justice Nyako denies Nnamdi Kanu bail. Again, Justice Nyako denies Nnamdi Kanu bail. Details on page 6. FG stops award of marginal oil fields, insists oil fields assets to be governed by provisions of PIA. FG stops award of marginal oil fields, insists oil fields assets to be governed by provisions of PIA. Buhari assures 22 aggrieved APC senators of justice before 2023 poll. One wonders what justice will be in this context. NLC, TUC vow to work for Peter Obi's presidential victory. Interesting times. Gunmen invade Ebonyi community, burn houses, kill one, abduct many. One wonders if this is connected or not with the IPOB, and if this will be affected as time goes on by Nnamdi Kanu's call for calm and for peace. Despite resigning, Senate vows to investigate former CJN, National Assembly to amend Electoral Act to remedy weaknesses. NICOM revokes licenses of Niger Insurance and Standard Lines, and why diesel, cooking gas are costly by NNPC bus. The question will be, will Nigerians want to know why it's costly, or do they want to hear that the prices are going down? We'll move on to the next paper now. This is the Leadership with some interesting headlines on its front page. Let's start with the big one, with a kicker there. Aftermath of primaries, it says APC, save APC from collapse. PMB begs aggrieved senators, others. Save APC from collapse. PMB begs aggrieved senators, others. Of course, after meeting, during that meeting he had with them yesterday. Says party must not lose majority status in National Assembly. Leaves for Portugal to attend UN Ocean Conference. He just came back from Rwanda. We'll still amend Electoral Act before 2023 polls. Lawan. All right, the president is off to another foreign conference. Quite interesting. More from the Leadership. Matawale signs anti-banditry kidnapping cattle rustling bill. Anti-banditry kidnapping and cattle rustling bill. Some will say that all these things are already covered under the law, as it were. You know, these things have been criminalized. But hey, I'm sure if you read the details, you might know some more. Dul Hijjah, Sultan asks Muslims to look out for new moon. Nigeria generates 200 billion naira and $7 million from marginal field sale. Court dismisses Kanu's fresh bail application, organ harvesting. Reps vow to ensure justice for Ekwere Madu wife. And FG raises tax on tobacco products to 30%. Not so good news for those who would like to share a puff or two, from time to time. 30%. That's quite interesting. 8 years after, Jonathan seeks implementation of 2014 confab report. All right, and the final berth would be at the stable of the Punch newspaper. Has some interesting headlines this morning. Opting to go with the CJN story. On the front page of the Punch newspaper, it says, Ex-CJN to get 2.5 billion naira benefits. Senate begins corruption probe. Ex-CJN to get 2.5 billion naira benefits. Senate begins corruption probe. The riders to that headline: retired CJN entitled to gratuity, that is 300% of 3.36 million naira annual basic. This according to a Punch investigation. They're saying his earnings will be intact. He's entitled to official cars, houses, says NJC source. Muhammad battling condition before appointment, visits Dubai for treatments, according to a source they also citing as well. And there's a disturbing picture on that front page. You can see some pupils sitting on the floor during a class session. This seems like some primary school students. But there's a story and a headline beneath that picture. It's a worrying one too as well. Edo pupils learning on bare floor community seeks government's help. Edo pupils learning on bare floor community seeks government's help. It's quite worrying there. More from the Punch. Ekiti workers give Fayemi 21-day ultimatum over unpaid entitlements. This is a governor who was celebrating Tinubu's emergence at the APC primaries, but seems he hasn't paid the entitlements of his workers. Interesting times. Oyo deputy governor sues assembly over impeachment move. Lagos airlifts 1,598 pilgrims, promises refund. All right, government still dabbling into private pilgrimage in these times. Some people have said maybe it should be looked at again. Exercise restraint, Buhari tells aggrieved senators. We have another worrying one. Sexagenarian dies as friend steals ATM card, withdraws 700,000 naira. Strike, Abiodun meets labor today, laments cash crunch. And of course, in a trending segment, you saw, a video from a patient or a victim who was rushed to the General Hospital in Abeokuta, but was not allowed to enter because of the ongoing strike. The governor is lamenting what is called a cash crunch. God help us. Aggrieved aspirants reject INEC lists, begin multiple court cases. Here we go again. 13 marginal fields dormant. FG awards 57 to new investors. Will apply diplomatic pressure to help. A query mandate is coming from members of the House of Representatives. We'll leave it at that now and bring in at this point Tunde Kolawole, who is a guest analyst on of the press segment this morning. Mr. Kolawole, once again, thanks for your time. I think there'll be no better way to start than to look at what we have on the front page of the Punch, which we just cited some moments ago. And the big one there says your good friend, my Lord the Honorable Justice Tanko Mohammed, ex-Chief Justice of Nigeria, has terminal benefits of 2.5 billion naira. Is that too much as far as you're concerned?
Well, that's with regards to the CJN. Well, I think it is a statutory provision. It's what is to simply put it, contained in our law. That when the CJN retires, he is entitled to give so gratuity and pension and some severance packages. That is what runs into the millions of naira that the papers are reporting. We are now also to know that the Nigerian politicians, the governors, the National Assembly people, the State House of Assembly, the President and the Vice President, they also take very hefty severance packages in their leading office. The question to ask ourselves is whether that is justified. Take for the politicians especially, that a man will be governor, president, vice president, or a member of the National Assembly or State Assembly for just 4 years, and you will receive more money or get more severance package than a civil servant who has worked for 30, 35 years. For the CJN, you might say it's something that is worth paying. To the extent that the man has been there for almost 30 years now. He started as a magistrate, up to the Sharia court, up to the Court of Appeal, and then the Supreme Court. And there is almost 70 years. The better part of his life has been spent serving the people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria on the bench. If we have said that we don't want the judicial officers to be corrupt, we don't want them to be taking bribes when they are on the bench, then we should make provisions for them to be able to live a comfortable life when they do leave office or when they retire from the bench.
All right, interesting. So, Tunde Kolawole, you're saying that this is all statutory and therefore, like we say in this part of the country, nothing spoiled. But 2.5 billion naira, some would argue, is kind of high. Looking at the fact that, we are one of the poorest countries in the world,
I'm sure it's not just a salary alone. It must be the sum total of what he is likely to receive in terms of gratuity, in terms of pension, in terms of maybe payment for domestic staff, security, maintenance or provision of car for him to be able to move around as comfortably as he used to do and all that. Well, you could say it's a jumbo sum of money, but when you look at the value of the naira today, or you convert that money to pound sterling or the dollar, or you go to the market with it, you will discover that the purchasing power of the 2.something billion naira that we are talking about is a pittance given the value of the naira in our house today.
All right. All right. What are your thoughts on the Senate's intention to probe the ex-CJN?
Well, I think that is another. There is a controversy now as to whether the CJN retired because he had health issues. There's also the petitions written against him by his brother justices, which is something we have never seen on the bench before, in the Supreme Court before, where in the past we have had a judge in Osun State write a scathing letter to a sitting governor for his inability to pay judicial workers and the inability of the governor to also pay the civil servants in the state. Rather than look into the allegations made by that judge in Osun State, was promptly dismissed from the bench. He has gone to court now and won his case, and she has been reinstated. But at the Supreme Court, we have never had kind of a rebellion before. So if it is coming up for the first time, and in a sensitive way like the Supreme Court, the apex court in the land for that matter, and a court that is said to get a whopping about 100 billion naira on an annual basis, for the justices to be complaining that their welfare is not being properly taken care of, and that even the environment in which they work has not been made conducive. They also made an allegation in a very scathing manner that the retired CJN was incompetent and also corrupt. Furthermore, I've also read in the paper that one of his children collected a bribe amounting to $10 million from a litigant for the purpose of buying justice or perverting the cause of justice. Given all these circumstances, there is no way the Senate would have read that kind of stories and not be interested in finding out whether those allegations or what has been alleged are true or not. So, in order to clean the audience table, in order to preserve the sanctity of the Supreme Court, I think that probe is highly necessary. You must also remember that sometimes some of these public officials, when there are serious allegations against them, they quickly throw in the towel. They resign or they retire with the view that their sins will be forgiven, that they will no longer be probed, and then it will not be a thing that will lead to the withdrawal of whatever gratuities and pensions that they are entitled to. Because if the Senate goes ahead with the probe, while the CJN is still sitting and is indicted and removed, the entitlement that we talk about now, the 2.something billion, and some of those pensions that he will be receiving to the end of his life, he would have lost it. So they throw in the towel. But you see, like people would say, the law is an ass. If because you are about to be probed and you don't want to lose your entitlement, you quickly throw in the towel. The person doing so must remember that criminality or crimes that have been committed is never started bad. You can still be recalled back and punished for whatever infractions you may have committed. In the example of the CJN, whatever entitlement he gets today, if the Senate finally indicts him and all that, he will be liable to pay back or return to the government treasury whatever entitlement faculties he may have received during his retirement.
All right, all right. Interesting times. Let's stay with the Punch
Very,
newspaper.
very interesting.
Yeah, very interesting times indeed. I would have taken your thoughts on the NBA's statement, but there's no time. But let's move on to Ogun State. We stay with the Punch newspaper, and we'll look at the bottom of that front page. In Ogun State, we had a trending video which we put out and we discussed before you came on the air. This shows a young woman unable to access the General Hospital in Abeokuta because of the ongoing strike. And of course, it's not far-fetched that citizens and regular man on the street, as we call them, would be finding it difficult to take care of their health because of the high cost of healthcare in the private health institutions. Ogun State indigents will be suffering and residents will be suffering right now because of the ongoing strike. But what's interesting is the Punch newspaper says that the governor, while saying that he is meeting with organized labor in Ogun State, he's invited organized labor to a meeting to resolve this industrial action embarked on Tuesday by workers in the state, that's the state government workers. He's saying there's a paucity of funds. This is the headline as the Punch put it. This is what they're saying. Strike. Abiodun meets labor today, laments cash crunch, or paucity of funds, as we might want to put it. What are your thoughts on this whole issue of paucity of funds as it affects the payment of salaries in states by state governors?
Well, it is a very, very tragic thing indeed for the young woman that we talked about, for the people of Ogun State, and for the entire people of Nigeria. You will recollect that the acting or the new Accountant General of the Federation, while declaring open a workshop a few weeks ago, have lamented that the federal government is now borrowing money to pay its staff salary. Most of the states too, Ogun in particular, Ekiti in particular, and most of the other states, they are all borrowing money from the bank to pay their staff salary. Why is it so? Is it that Nigeria has become bankrupt? Is it that Nigeria doesn't have enough resources to be able to to pay its workforce and also engage in whatever developmental project it wanted to embark upon? In my humble opinion, we do have the ways and means to do whatever we want to do as a nation. What we have seen in the past 22 years or thereabouts is that politicians who ordinarily should manage our resources in a very prudent manner, especially now that oil is no longer in high demand in the international market because of alternative energies that are available. They have been behaving like a low-cost refinery of the country, heating up, destroying, desecrating, and wiping off all the gains that have been made in the past. Now, the chicken has come home to roost. Oil is no longer selling. There is a limit to the amount of naira that you can print as the CJN, the central bank, to print for you to be able to spend. If you do too much of it, your currency becomes valueless. Inflation will creep in. I have said it as without number. Nigeria is a nation that is burning its candles from two ends. The democratic process that we have embarked upon is too huge and too expensive and not sustainable. There is no way Nigeria can sustain this democracy. So, we need to review the democracy to free resources, to make resources more available, to be invested in education, in healthcare, in the welfare of the workers, and the generality of the Nigerian people. Secondly, the jumbo salaries, allowances, the packages that the politicians also receive is a killer for the nation. It is also not sustainable. I mean, how do you serve for 4 years? And after that 4 years, the house is built for you in Abuja, one in your state capital, and then you will get 2 cars every 2 years. You will get domestic staff for the rest of your life. Where is that ever gone? It really doesn't make sense to me. What we have seen politicians do in this part of the world is to perfect kleptocracy and also legalize it at the detriment of our people. They have proven themselves to be incapable of clearly managing the resources of Nigeria. Look at education, it is in chaos. The health sector, it is in chaos. Security, all over the place, local government, the township, the villages and all that of life and property is in jeopardy. You can, so places like the churches, places like the mosque, and sanctuaries that are never to be desecrated, that we don't go in to maim and kill people. Even when there are wars in anywhere in the world, once a man goes inside a mosque, once a man goes inside a church, it is presumed that you cannot go there to hurt them. But is that the case today? That it is not. The consequences of all that is the lack of prudent management of the resources of the country and lack of foresight to save for the rainy day. If I were the workers of Ogun State, I would not be disposed to entertaining any meeting with the Governor Abiodun simply because he has not himself proven to be a man that is capable of delivering on his promises and managing the resources of Ogun State in a very prudent manner. You will recall that when he won the election, his father appealed to him that throughout his term of stewardship, he should make sure that he pays the workers of Ogun State and also the pensioners their salaries as at when due. That if he is able to do this, he will be happy in his grace because instead of being a former civil servant, he knew what he went through by the denial of his pension, by not receiving his salary as at when due. But with Abiodun got there, as he heeded his father's admonition, the answer is no. Do you go to the state today and see any developmental project going on in there? I visited a friend a few weeks ago somewhere in Akute, and all the roads are not motorable. It is a time to take on the politicians in a very frontal manner so that all their excesses, all this kleptocracy that is going on at the local government level, at the state level, at the federal level can be stopped. I say it times without number. Democracy doesn't develop any nation. It is investment in education, it is visionary leadership, it is also very vigilant followership, very vigilant citizenship who are ready to use their skills to challenge whoever may be in authority who has no capacity to manage the resources of the society in a very prudent manner.
All right. Interesting times yet again, and we see the effect of leadership and not doing the right thing on the lives of the citizenry. I hope we have enough time to right the wrongs of the past. But I wouldn't be fair if I left the Punch newspaper without giving you a chance to comment on what is their front page picture. The picture on the front page, of which they have a headline as well. This picture shows pupils of a school in Edo State sitting on the floor to take their notes. And the headline there, Edo pupils learning on bare floor, community seeks government's help. I don't know what else we can say about these people who are in charge of our government and, what they are doing or not doing to make the country better. This is really sad. But I'm sure you'll agree with me, Tunde Kolawole, this is just one out of several in different parts of the country.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You will recollect not too long ago, some newspapers also published how students in Rivers State, one of the supposedly richest states in Nigeria, sit in classrooms without roof over their head. You also go to Jigawa, you go to Zamfara, where the governor is using public funds to build 100 mosques all over the state. When the children who are in school don't have enough classrooms, the classrooms that are available, there are no chairs and tables in there. There are no roofs over those classrooms. The truth of the matter is, the set of politicians that we have today are not the kind of politicians like we had between 1979 and 1983. These people have no value for education. And they have no value for education principally for three things. Most of them are not educated. They forge their certificates. And if a man didn't go to school and is able to forge certificates and become governor, become a senator, become an House of Rep member, it will be difficult to convince such persons or such a leader to invest in education. The second one is that most of the people going to school today, because the politicians believe they don't have a job for them, they would rather want to keep our people illiterate because they know if they're educated and they went to school, by the time they graduate, they will become very, very serious problems, not just for them, but for the entire society. I can recollect there was a policy during the Obasanjo regime, I think, during the Obasanjo presidency, in which the state very quietly and tactically instructed JAMB and the universities to reduce the number of people that are being admitted into the higher institution because there wouldn't be any job for them when they finish. Secondly, and I, just like we have said before, rather than invest our money in what is likely to yield bountiful effects and return for the society, we are squandering it on democracy, on people who don't do no job, who are not adding any value to the society. Why can't, for example, a state like Ekiti that is so poor and which people are so much in love of education, why can't the House of Assembly there be a part-time matter in which people take a sitting allowance? Why can't the National Assembly also be a unicameral assembly, just one assembly, with not more than one person per state, or at most two people per state? That would have saved resources. Why can't we, for example, pay the governors, pay the senators, pay the councillors, the salaries that the ordinary civil servants receive in the different parts of the country, so that we'll be able to free resources for what is useful, for what we add value, for what will make this society develop, and for what will create jobs. So, we need a revolution of mind, of the body, of the kind of people that we put in leadership. Because leadership is very, very important. Without visionary leadership, a country is as good as becoming a kind of a first nation, a banana republic, which Nigeria is gradually sliding towards.
All right, Tunde Kolawole, sorry to interrupt, but let's move on. And this is a very important point you've made about leadership. We're talking about leadership. The Daily Independent, focuses with its central story on the 2014 conference report and a call by Dr. Goodluck Jonathan, former president, who in his time superintended and organized that conference. He says it's time to implement 2014 Confab report. Goodluck Jonathan says it's time to implement 2014 Confab report. And a few sentences from that says, former President Dr. Goodluck Jonathan has pleaded with Nigerians not to play politics with the 2014 National Constitutional Conference report if the country is to come out of permanent present malaise. He particularly urged the two chambers of the National Assembly to dispassionately look at the recommendations of the confab with a view to implementing them instead of allowing it to gather dust like other well-meaning efforts at governance and development of the country. Now, these are very, very wide-ranging, far-reaching, recommendations, and a lot of money, taxpayers' money, was spent in organizing this conference. Dr. Goodluck Jonathan did nothing about it but handed the file over to President Buhari when he came in, and now he's saying stop keeping it to gather dust. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, if you read that story critically, you will find out that Dr. Goodluck Jonathan himself has provided the answers or reasons why it is difficult to implement the 2014 confab. You will, like he has rightly identified, have to amend the Nigerian constitution. You also have to amend so many other instance laws of the land. That report, if you are also going to implement it, will teach northern Nigeria against southern Nigeria. You will also have to discuss the issue of the secularity of the Nigerian state. So, these are very weighty issues that if you run through the mills of the National Assembly, of the Central Assembly, the part of the country that will usually feel that kind of reform or that kind of overhauling of the political structure of the country will never be in the table, will automatically shoot it down and it will never see the light of day. If Dr. Goodluck Jonathan knew that the time was rather too short at that period in time to implement the confab, why did he convoke it? Why did he spend so much, such huge amount of money on it? Why did he not push some of these issues to the then National Assembly, to the Federal Assembly, within the 6 or 7 years he was in power, to look at and take a decision and see how it works out? For me, this is rather a crying wolf when there is none. Dr. Goodluck Jonathan himself knew and he didn't implement the report because he knew indeed the possibility of him getting a second term at that period in time and even being in the good book of the section of the country was not going to be there. That was the reason he shied away from implementing some of those things. He could have used executive orders, for example, to implement some of the decisions of the confab without going through the National Assembly. But he never had the courage to do it because he wanted a second term. He also did not want to step on the toes of northern Nigeria. For me, I think the thing to do, as it were today, is for the young people of Nigeria to get together, identify good candidates among the politicians that have thrown their hearts into the ring, raise the resources for such candidates, campaign for those candidates, volunteer as canvassers for those candidates, volunteer as people who will man the different polling booths in the 774 local government in the country to ensure that whoever candidate that they are supporting, the elections are not rigged against such persons. But is this possibility or is this possible? The answer is in the air. If you take cognizance of what happened in Ekiti State, if you take cognizance of what is likely to happen in Osun State election coming on this month of July, you saw our people, the ordinary poor people, including the youth, including students, including market women, including highly educated people, waiving the 10,000 naira, waiving the 5,000 naira, waiving the 3,000 naira that they have collected from politicians before the camera, before journalists, and why on cue to vote for those who have paid them. These people have not gotten the consciousness that when you are paid to vote for a candidate, that candidate doesn't hold any obligations again as regards delivery of a good governance when it gets to power. I pity our people. Why do I pity them?
Okay.
It is difficult to tell a man who is terribly hungry or who is starving to wait for the harvest season. He will not listen.
Okay.
That will not enter his ear. Harvest season is usually a prolonged period by which time the family would have died of starvation.
All right.
So the Nigerian dilemma, Nigeria is in a dilemma, a very serious quagmire. The people are so impoverished by the leadership that whatever is thrown at them, they lap it up.
Okay.
Like the provider local jobs.
We have to go, Tunde Kolawole. I want to thank you very much for your time. But
yes,
the NLC-TUC is saying they will work for Peter Obi's presidential victory in 2023. I was going to just bring that up for you to comment on, because you're saying the people, young people of this country, have to make a decision.
I would have liked to comment on the Peter Obi issue, but time is not our friend. I am one of those who believe that Peter Obi is standing on a very defective moral pedestal. I also believe he doesn't have the competence to navigate through the terrible situation in which Nigeria finds itself today. He is a trader. Furthermore, you will remember, he was indicted in the Pandora box issues that were exposed, in which he went and registered some companies, put them in tax havens, where he was denying the Nigerian state of taxes. Is he a sane man now? Has he committed class suicide?
We have to go, Tunde Kolawole. We have to go.
Thank you.
I think this is a good way to prepare for to have you on another time and to talk about this year's 2023 elections. Thank you for your time. And that's much we can take on off the press for today. We'll be right back. We have Chief Mr. Festus Okoye standing by to talk about INEC and the permanent voter registration exercise. We have a lot to unpack when we come back.